So I did a video yesterday called Michael Knowles Doesn't Understand the Separation of Church and State. And someone called Recolored Crown wrote in with this comment. Said, quote, "Near the end, you said several things about Michael's schadenfreude. You painted it as if he's watching some innocent child getting tortured when he actually just laughs about someone being an idiot, getting hurt because of it, and then laughing as any other human would do. I think he understands it, but I don't think he is thinking on quite as large a scale as someone would actually have to if they were to be part of a system that puts these rules in place. Saying Brett is only there to be a pretty face is just a blatant insult to her intelligence when she has clearly proven her place and she has had more than enough difficulties in her life to earn it." Okay, I'm glad you sent me this, actually, because it gives me an opportunity to talk about something that's been on my mind for a while. So, you may recall there's been a recent development, recent as in it happened earlier this year, the death by strangling of a homeless man named Jordan Neely on the New York City subway system by a man named Daniel Penny. So, put a pin in that. We'll come back to it. But first of all, I want to start with Brett Cooper, and I wanted to actually clarify something I said in the last video. I said that, I put the Daily Wire people in a list of the people I like most to like least. And I think I forgot to put Andrew Klavan in there, which is funny because he's one of the ones I would put towards the top. The reason for that being above and beyond whatever his politics may be, he is a writer and a very successful and very capable and very accomplished writer and an award-winning writer of fiction. And he has brilliant insights into the craft of writing. I could listen to him talk about writing and the artistry of it all day. Also, he is a hardcore gamer, it turns out. I had no idea. He's actually a really big Diablo fan, apparently, and he likes a lot of different games, so good on him. Anyway, I don't think my original list, I said, it would start Jordan Peterson. It would go like Jordan Peterson, Andrew Klavan, Dennis Prager, Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, Candace Owens, Michael Knowles, in terms of like to don't like, a spectrum of like to don't like. But I don't think that really captures the accurate stratification of how I feel about them. Jordan Peterson, Andrew Klavan would be up here. Dennis Prager, Ben Shapiro down here a little bit more. Then Matt Walsh would be right about here. Candace Owens would be on the floor. And then Michael Knowles would be not only beneath the floor, but beneath the floor of the apartment below mine, all the way down beneath the foundation of the building that I'm currently in. He is a truly vile human being. And my reaction to that, and in that list I gave, what was prompting this person to say it is that I said that I left Brett Cooper off of that list because I don't think that she's really there to have her own opinions or anything. She mainly just parrots the opinion, the kind of Daily Wire, standard Daily Wire boilerplate, and I really just think that she's there to be a pretty face. And I'll get into that a little bit more in a minute. But anyway, here's the thing. First, talking about Michael Knowles and his schadenfreude. Schadenfreude is a German word loosely translating to mean taking glee or joy or pleasure in the sight of bad things happening to other people. And the fact that he is experiencing that at all is fundamentally unchristian. Michael Knowles is an avowed Christian nationalist, and that's what I was talking about in the last video, his totally fallacious idea that he thinks he can force Christianity on other people. I say this as a Christian myself, by the way, but a Christian who believes in the separation of church and state. Apparently, Michael never read the part in the Bible about rendering unto Caesar what is Caesar's and unto God what is God's. But anyway, so this is someone who thinks he can push Christianity onto people by way of law. What he really means is he thinks he can use Christianity as a framing device to justify pushing his authoritarian agenda on people. What I pointed out with regards to Michael Knowles is that he takes extraordinary pleasure in laughing at the misfortune of others, in belittling other people, in belittling them and laughing at and mocking the mistreatment of weaker and innocent people. And I have never, and what irks me about that is Brett Cooper, bringing her back into the discussion, once described Michael Knowles as one of the kindest people she knows. Now, when I say this, I have to offer a very important clarification. The first time I brought this up, there was a dude in my comments who was saying, talking to everybody in the comments, saying, "I don't understand why he's saying Michael Knowles isn't nice. Michael Knowles is really nice, blah, 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 blah." I didn't say nice. I called his kindness into question. Niceness is something you do. It's about presenting yourself in a friendly and agreeable and likable manner to ingratiate yourself to other people and that sort of thing. It has to do with presentation and manners and etiquette and all of that sort of thing. Kindness is about who you are as a person. And in Michael Knowles' soul, there is only a black void of cruelty and mockery and derision. And I want to call, and to give you an example of what I'm talking about, Jordan Neely. When Michael Knowles reported on the strangling of Jordan Neely, he was filled with grinning. He was grinning ear to ear, chuckling, laughing, as he described the manner in which Jordan Neely was placed in a stranglehold by Daniel Penny and strangled to death. He openly cheered for Daniel Penny, approved of his actions, and laughed joyously with no regard for the tragic loss of a human life whatsoever. He reveled in it. He mocked and derided and laughed at the death of a mentally ill man, called him a career criminal, which is nonsense. Yes, he had been picked up by the police for petty infractions like vagrancy, trespassing, petty theft, and a lot of things by the police. But guess what? Homeless people get picked up by the police a lot. Him being picked up 40 times is certainly, sadly, is nothing unusual when it comes to homeless people. When he got on the subway car, yes, he was loud and yelling, and it was upsetting to people, but multiple witnesses have come forward to say that he never said anything threatening to anybody and never threatened violence to anybody. He said he was hungry and he didn't care if he went to jail. My personal guess is that the saying he didn't care if he went to jail might have had something to do with an outstanding warrant, which, yes, was for assault, but an outstanding warrant for his arrest. He was saying he didn't care if he ended up going to jail because he was on the lam at the time and didn't care if he went to jail. He was still presenting himself to try to get help and food. That's only my speculation. But the point of the matter is that in that moment, he did not assault anybody. He did not threaten to assault anybody. And Daniel Penny chose to put him in a chokehold, drag him to the ground, and maintain that chokehold long past what was necessary until Jordan Neely was dead. Witnesses have come forward to say that people tried to tell him to be careful with Jordan Neely, tried to get him to stop the chokehold, but he continued it anyway. People have said that far from Jordan Neely being overly aggressive or agitated, it was in fact Daniel Penny who appeared agitated and uncomfortable in the situation and who acted rashly. As I wanted to go get the video of Michael Knowles' sickening behavior and link it to you, I've been digging for it for the last half hour, And son of a gun, I can't find it. Now, if somebody can find the report, I'll be glad to put it in the link. Put the link in the bio below. But I can't seem to find it. In fact, I can't seem to find any Daily Wire coverage of the Jordan Neely situation, at least not on YouTube. There's some fairly perfunctory news items on the website, printed on the website, but all of the Daily Wire correspondents who were calling Daniel Penny some kind of hero seem to have vanished. Interestingly, now as we are being confronted with a preponderance of evidence, an overwhelming amount of evidence that Daniel Penny was in fact in the wrong in his behavior, and that Jordan Neely did not deserve to die in this situation. So, with that in mind, I was thinking about when I heard that the Jordan Neely thing. Later, that was very much on my mind later when I watched an interview with Brett Cooper, and this is what I wanted to bring up to you, by the way. Now, Brett Cooper, by the way, while I think she is young and naive and to a certain extent just an actress playing a character, I've seen the difference between the person she is in interviews outside the Daily Wire, where she is calm and earnest and thoughtful and seems to be speaking in a sincere manner, and the way she presents on the Daily Wire, where she always has that shit-eating grin and she's always being snarky and sarcastic about everything. There is a real difference between these two personas. On a side note, like so many at the Daily Wire, she has outstanding hypocrisies that are bizarre to me. She goes on and on and on extolling the virtues of being a trad wife, while she herself is using the Daily Wire, using her appearances on the Daily Wire to help pay her way through law school. Really, Brett, you can't just go find some traditional good old boy and settle down. That's bizarre to me. Now, don't get me wrong, I think she is a smart person ultimately, and I think she'll probably make a good attorney, and I think it's great that she's in law school. It's just the hypocrisy bothers me. Now, bringing it back around, in one of those one of those interviews outside the Daily Wire that I saw her do, she talked about her life, and yeah, she's had some tough shit to deal with in her young life, and I don't deny that at all. But here's the thing I want you to think about. One of the things she talked about at length was her brother, who is mentally ill and homeless because of his mental illness. That combination has been such an ongoing problem that the family has to monitor him even in his homelessness. They can't keep him in any kind of shelter. His mental health issues make it impossible for them to hold him in any kind of domestic situation whatsoever, including professional help. He's lost on the streets, and she talked about how they have a support network set up among other homeless people. That if her brother gets in a really bad way, they will call her family so they can try to get her brother some help. They can try to come intervene. That's the situation she's in with her brother. Now, here's what I want Brett Cooper to think about. I want Brett Cooper to think about the fact that if her brother was killed by a vigilante who was merely irked by his presence, was murdered, was strangled to death, the very man that she called one of the kindest people she knows would think that was funny, would laugh about it, would hold up the person who strangled him as a hero, would laugh at the tragic death of an innocent man that was failed by our mental health care system. He would laugh at that. That's the person Brett Cooper was calling one of the kindest people she knows. Now, here's the thing. Like I said, there's two Brett Coopers. There's the real, sincere, thoughtful kid that is still growing and still learning and is humble in the face of the fact that she does not know everything. And then there is the arrogant, smirking, shit-eating grin Brett Cooper character on the Daily Wire. And that character is the person who called Michael Knowles one of the kindest people she knows. But I would hope that the real Brett Cooper, that real person who, yes, has had a very hard life, would understand that Michael Knowles is a rat bastard. That Michael Knowles is a heartless, vile human being who truly delights in the misery and the death of people he disagrees with. Who truly and sincerely believes that if he perceives a problem with somebody, then he himself is judge, jury, and executioner of that person. Michael Knowles is a person who laughs when homeless people are murdered on the subway. And don't give me any crap trying to defend Daniel Penny. Oh, Jordan Neely had a criminal history, had a history of arrests. Well, guess what? Daniel Penny did not know that and had no way of knowing that. He only acted based on the information he had at hand, which did not justify murdering Jordan Neely. The punishment for throwing your jacket on the floor and yelling is not death. And even in situations where the punishment is death in this country, that death is carried out in a solemn, structured, and ritualistic fashion that actually is intended to afford some modicum of dignity to the condemned. It is not death. The death penalty in this country is not supposed to be carried out as a lynching on the floor of a New York City subway. But every time you try to defend Michael Knowles, you just stop and remember how vile he is. And you ask yourself, have you ever seen Michael Knowles express compassion and concern for the downtrodden in any way? Because as far as I can tell, there's two modes for Michael Knowles. There is the sort of condescending way in which he talks with his hands while he makes things up. He makes up facts on the spot, makes things up, and condescends to people, explaining his blowhard point of view that's supported by his imagination. There's that way of talking that he does. And then there's this thing where he's grinning ear to ear because somebody just got beaten up, or somebody just got smacked in the head, or somebody just got strangled to death, and he only acts with glee and joy at the sight of human misery and human suffering in the extreme. And if he will react with glib, lighthearted, good cheer at the sight of somebody being strangled to death, I don't believe that there is any depth of heartlessness to which that man will not sink. And that's what really sticks in my craw, because here's the thing, man. I have some beliefs that would really, really be described as liberal. I'm pro-choice. I'm pro-gay marriage. I have some beliefs that would be described as conservative. I'm pro-2A. I personally don't think that it's appropriate for drag queens to be reading to school children. The legality of that is another matter, but just my personal opinion of it, I hold it in low regard. But those are just examples, because realistically, no human being should be hard left or hard right. We should take issues as they come and decide how we feel about them. And the reason I bring that up is because there are things that make it impossible for me to go hard left or hard right. And a lot of it comes down to how the two sides handle the presentation of their issues. The left has this rhetorical way of arguing where they present themselves either as victims or speaking on behalf of victims, and the tacit underpinning of every argument they make is that anyone who opposes them is not opposing them out of a principled objection to what they're saying, but rather out of a deep-seated underlying hatred for whoever they're speaking on behalf of. That's the problem I have fundamentally with the left. The problem I have fundamentally with the right is that it's the party of it's the position of punching down. It's the people who really laugh, who really get a jolly out of punching down. It's kind of like when Rush Limbaugh, I think it was Rush Limbaugh, who cut down a tree to celebrated Earth Day by cutting down a tree. As Bill Maher accurately described it, no real philosophy there, just being a dick. It's the philosophy, or the uber ultra right wing is the philosophy of the sanctimonious bullies, the bullies that want to punch down at people, and the bullies who take pleasure in the hurting of the weaker and the lesser. And that is why fundamentally I can't get on the side of the right. The toxicity, the unchecked toxicity on both the left and the right is too profound and too significant for me to want to be a part of either one. And if I'm commenting on someone like Michael Knowles, he is absolutely the worst example of the right wing punching down at the weaker. That man is a heartless bastard, and don't you ever forget it.